Welcome to another episode of Women Investing in Women. Robin and I take great delight and honor in featuring week after week different women from different parts of the world with different walks of life who are stepping into the world and making an impact, not just for themselves, for the other women around them. Regardless of the generational divide, they're stepping in and lifting each other up and allowing others to lift themselves up. And so, as we celebrate these women and as we honor these women, we want to have the opportunity to feature them and bring their stories forward so that everybody can learn from each other's journey. And our conversation today is going to be with a friend of the community, and you're going to love having Precious Fuller back. Precious is not just a member of the community and a very supportive woman leader in our community, but she is focused on being an emotional empowerment coach for women over 40. And we are going to have her explain why she does what she does and how she's making an impact across the community she's serving. Precious, welcome.
Thank you
Welcome.
so much. Glad to be here among
What a
friends.
joy. What a joy. Take a moment and explain to us why you chose the emotional empowerment route for coaching and why women over 40.
So I've chosen empowerment for women over 40 because I'll start with the last part of the question first. We expect challenges and changes and trying to figure things out in the first stages of our lives. But sometimes the next stage, some things catch us by storm, or we were expecting that we would be past that by now, or we have expectations for how things will look. But it's still our first time at that new age and phase of life. So it's still new for us when things happen. And we still need and deserve and require the same support and encouragement and community that was needed at a different age and stage in life. Nothing has changed but the day, but the year, but the age. So our needs matter just as much as they ever did. And it's ideal to identify that and to interact with those who understand that process. And then, as far as the emotional empowerment space, that's near and dear to my heart. You give things, when you really give a gift, it's something that you would want for yourself. It's not just something you would discard, you don't have need of anymore, and you give it away. Well, that's not really a gift as such. But the emotional space, it's dear to me because it's what I need as well. And it's something that has always been a part of me. My emotions have always been strong and impactful, and at times maybe governed my life in ways maybe it shouldn't have. And then also, on the other hand, it's also because of my empathy and awareness and intuitiveness. It's a gift that I give others too, because I have the perception and the awareness, since I have need and space there and understanding. It's a contribution that I'm able to give. So during one of the dimmest parts of life for me, the needs that I had to find a way. And when you come out on the other side, as we've talked about, Cass, uh, there's a difference. There's another light that you embody. There's more wisdom and there's an insight that has been gained. So the process that it took me to get there, I've been able to package, so to speak. I've been able to promote through my lifestyle, through speaking, through connecting with others, so that I can be a support because I understand the other side. And I know that there's a way that we can get there better and not just stay stuck, not just stay stagnant, and not just give up and say, oh, well, this is it. No, it doesn't have to be. So I want to support others in that process as well.
That sounds really beautiful. And I loved what you said, that no matter what age you're at, you've never been at that age before. And sometimes there's a notion of, oh, I'm 40, I'm 50, I'm 60, then I should have this all figured out. But to your point, even though you've been in other ages and stages before, this one, every single day, every single age is unique. And I'd never really thought of it in those terms before, but it's really very helpful. So, how do you help women essentially cut themselves some slack around this notion that, hey, you've never been a 45-year-old before. Hey, you've never been, for me, I've never been a 67-year-old before. So how do you help women cut themselves some slack around the notion of, hey, this is new. I'm going to be on a learning curve, even though regardless of how many years I've lived.
Yeah, really, by what I just did. Sometimes just dropping that bomb of knowledge and then sitting with it for a moment, people figure out for themselves, yeah, that's true. That's true. And they start to cut themselves some slack because it's not a magic way I do it other than doing it, and sharing that. And what's interesting, with not only do we, which is the worst part, maybe expect ourselves to do and be more than is really feasible, others do too. So others feed into and they're thinking, oh, because of your age and stage, you should know. But it's not good when we feed that process too. So in addition to just sharing it, there's space for that's part of the awareness of being able to acknowledge what we feel and why. But the acknowledgement part is when we actually just kind of sit and kind of draw a small map as to how I got there. Nothing deep and dark, and it'll make sense. And that cuts you some slack because when we trace it back just a little bit, not even far, we realize I earned it to be here at this point. I've earned the uncertainty or whatever the dynamic is that's going on because there's a way I got here, such as we can say, Robin, never been here before. I've seen others grow older. I've seen their experiences to some degree, but I've never actually experienced it. I didn't know what it would feel like for me. And so giving ourselves slack, having that conversation with ourselves, sometimes with someone else, but really with ourselves to just acknowledge, wow, how I got here makes sense. One day at a time, one experience at a time, and then the dynamics that have happened, how they've impacted me. And we get to look back on our beliefs. I expected I would be further along, or I bought into the narrative that I should feel or be this. We've bought into so many narratives that do not serve us. And when we acknowledge that, we can really give ourselves slack easier. And we can understand if we view ourselves from a third party or a bird's eye view, we can say, I can see how this happened. And then it's a matter of, now what do I choose to do about it? What would be next steps? But just the acknowledgement is powerful.
Mm-hmm. And that is so very true, Precious. And what's coming up for me is in our 40s is when our second act of life starts, right? We've pursued our careers. We've given birth and raised our families. Children are getting ready to go to university or going to university, right? And all of a sudden, we might find ourselves in crossroads of family life, crossroads of professional life. And that is when people at the workplace start bringing in younger people because the older people are a little more expensive and maybe cannot be as trainable because you have values, right? All of these dynamics happen in the workplace, the dynamics of family and the spousal relationships, midlife crisis entering, right? So many life changes happen at that stage for women in their 40s and 50s. How are you able to help women proactively navigate that as well as reactively deal with that?
Right. So one of my sayings is the point where we are currently, it has cost us something to get there. Our knowledge was not, our wisdom was not easily gained. It came through experiences, hard knocks. It's cost. And my motto is now let's make it count. So switching the mindset of, okay, not a victim, not just, wow, this things keep happening to me. And how did I miss this for so long? Or if I had only known, sometimes we can start thinking, your brain isn't fully developed, where they say now to about 25-ish. Sometimes they keep raising it. I don't know. But we're making so many critical decisions before that full development. So sometimes you can say, oh, if I had have known, and should I have known more than I did, I would have made different choices, or I could have. At some point, it's not a matter about shoulda, woulda, coulda. It's what is, giving kindness to ourselves and recognizing, what do I choose to do now? So my proposition message, my value proposition is, I help women build emotional strength to leave, change, or thrive in any challenging family situation. Because nothing hits us quite the same as family. Things hit us, they're impactful, but nothing quite the same. And it's a matter of, it's not really just only the family that this statement is beneficial for, because the emphasis, the support is on her, it's on me, it's on she, not those dynamics, because there are things that are beyond our control. We don't get to control other people, we don't get to control outcomes, circumstances, but we do have the control of ourselves, and that's enough. That's difficult enough sometimes to manage, change, adjust. So acknowledging that the things that happen have happened, and then acknowledging their impact on us, because sometimes, depending on where we've come from and how we've been taught, we may have the belief we're supposed to be a superwoman. And if we say it for fun and we have certain super strengths, that's true, that's fine. But we're still human, and we have the emotions. We are made of blood and water as other humans, and recognizing that, hey, and there's a little girl inside that needs to be cared for. And we get to do that. We get to be the ones to care for her first as an adult. So being showing self-compassion and realization of this process of growth. I won't just say the aging process, it's a growth process. So in some ways, even though I've experienced more than I've ever experienced, I've had challenges that I did not expect or see coming. I'm at the best phase of my life. Like, the older we get and the wiser, both need to kind of come together, not just older and ignorant, but older and wiser, to the point that we get to do something with that. And one of the posts out, and with this that I said, put out recently, is how did I put it? It was the fact that we all want emotional health and well-being. We all want the greatness, and we can. But to get there, we have to endure some hardship and some pain. We have to have some endurance. So recognizing that sometimes I don't know the answers yet. This is a really unfortunate place that I'm in right now, based on how I feel. Like, I don't like it. I'm not sure what's next. But what can we fill in for but? What is good? What is happening? What beliefs and hope do we hold for the future? And once we acknowledge and accept where we are and how we feel, and we validate ourselves for that, we get to choose. We don't just have to stay in that same spot indefinitely, and we can plan. So it's like an exciting phase of getting ready for something new and greater and better, making it count. What has cost us, making it count.
I'm loving what you're saying, especially along the lines of control, the things you said. Well, you talked about family and you talked about control. And oftentimes we like to control our family. We wish we could. I'm wondering, how do you help people navigate and tease through and get some realism around this concept of control? Because to me, it seems like we spend a lot of energy and time trying to control something that we think is controllable, when in fact, when you delve into it a little bit more, in fact, it's not. And so we've spent a lot of energy, we become very frustrated or resentful when something isn't happening, but in reality, it isn't something that we can fully control. We might be able to influence it, but we can't ultimately control the outcomes. So how do you go about helping women tease through, on any given situation, what components do I really have control over? What components do I really I really don't have control over.
Yeah. So each person I would meet with, is very individualized. There's a pattern of how to do certain things, but it's really predicated upon that particular person. And so in the sharing part that would come from the other person and the support that I would give, we get to determine what those fears are. Fears are what cause us to be so controlling. We are afraid of things happening, or we're afraid that we won't be able to handle it if they do. And that fear can put us in a tailspin. And because anybody who ever tried to control us, they had fears or they were taught a certain way. And sometimes it can be a disrespect to the other person that you can't make decisions. Well, I need to do this for you. And sometimes people do it almost automatically. But for whatever our reasons are, individually and with that particular woman, as we tease things out, we definitely would have some conversations of what's driving you. What's driving you to want to control? Well, because if I don't, my children will do this or my spouse. No, but what's driving that? What is, well, because if they do, yeah, because the focus again is not on the outside, it's on us. What's making us so are we in a situation where is the child 7 and there are things that we need to do um to affect the outcome? Is it in school? Is it some dynamic that we're supposed to be invested in? Is a child 23, 24? And especially if it's our spouse, that person is full grown. When we are wanting to control grown-ups, what is that going on with us? And it's not to punish us for our human flaws or challenges. It's to delve into them. What are those fears? And then we get to determine what can we do about them. If there are things that we don't want to happen and we want to alter the outcome and make sure this doesn't happen, what part is within our control and what part maybe is fear driving, or there are other emotions? Because it's all about this emotional connectedness and understanding. You have to pause long enough to understand, what is it that I'm really feeling? And it may take a moment. And then, how did I get there? What has driven me to that point? So control is a very big part, and people resent being controlled or even being attempted to be controlled. So we're not wanting to create resentments with those we love, but that's what happens if we do that. And even sometimes, if they are so used to being controlled that at a certain point they pause, there's even if it's not an awareness of the resentment, they move differently around us. They may not visit us as much. They may not open up their heart and share things with us as much because it's not as safe. It's not a safe place when you're controlled versus accepted. So we spend time with it depending on the person, how much time may be needed there to give them space for what they're experiencing and how they choose to move in a way that will be productive for them, because it's all about you. It's going to impact other people, those closest to you. But this is really about you, the only one we have the power and the ability to control. And that's hard enough.
That is so aptly put, Precious, and I'm loving this conversation. But before we go too further out, because time flies very quickly, I want us to take a moment to have you share information on how our audience can get a hold of you, and also a nugget of wisdom you can leave with them as we wrap this up.
Sure. So the best way would be LinkedIn, linkedin.com, Precious Fuller hyphen women's hyphen emotional hyphen specialist. And I would love to connect and continue some conversations and just see how we can be of support and encouragement to each other in this journey. So on LinkedIn, Precious Fuller, Women's Empowerment Specialist with hyphens after women and empowerment. And a nugget is, it's not over and we're not through. No matter how old we are, that's a gift. That's a gift, because I don't desire the alternative. But it's not over. So things have happened. They've caught us sometimes by storm, or we did not know the impact that life has taken on us and how we've maybe functioned out of what is the conditioned thinking, controlling behaviors that others have imposed on us. We've been a product of some things, and we don't have to feel bad because we all have. That's something we've shared in this human condition, but it's not over. It's not done if we say so. The next is always the best when we have the realization, the tools, and the ability to do something. We have the realization, the understanding that comes with that, the tools, the ability, the willingness to do something. It's not over. It's not over. It gets greater later with those tools and that mindset in place.
That is so beautiful. And it looks like you have really applied all of this in your life. And have there been any situations, just as we one last comment before we bring it to a close, has there been any really poignant situation where you feel like you have really made a difference in someone's life, where you can really see there's a big shift in their mindset and in their life outcomes?
So that's an interesting question. It's a very humbling one too, because I'm just like the other person. Like we're on this together. I'm not immune from situations. I've had to deal with it. So I appreciate the acknowledgement that I'm applying it, because people can sniff out what's not real. You can have great words, great PowerPoints, but if it's not real, it's detected. And I will say humbly, yes, I feel there's an impact. I don't know it until sometimes it's shared, because I'm already seeing the greatness of the person that I'm dealing with. And the last one of the last coaching spaces that I had, the person was able to share at the end some things, and it related to even me and the power, the impact of me in her life. And I'm just sitting like, I didn't know you. Okay, it's pretty. It's awesome that they are able to, since we're equal, to benefit from the strengths and these special gifts and abilities that I have, and it's visible by their outcomes. And I already see them as great, but it's like now they start to see the greatness. That is one of the biggest things to me. It doesn't matter if everyone sees you unless you see you. So when I see her seeing herself and walking in a new power, that's awesome to me. And that's the result of Eureka, I got it. You've got to get it for yourself. So being influential in that process, yes, that's humbling, that's appreciated, but I get to see the not just the greatness of the other person, I get to see her see herself. And that's always reflected in her. The belief starts first, and then the process follows. So I have, and I love it. It's amazing.
That is very poignant. And I love how you phrase the fact that the joy is in watching the other woman come to that self-realization. Because until she believes in it, the change is not going to last, right? Because it's something that's told to her. It's not believed by her. So thank you so much for what you're doing. Thank you so much for sharing this conversation with us. I know Robin and I have enjoyed having you back and having this conversation. And I know for a fact our audience are going to benefit from this. And this message is not just for women, right? Men too can take from it. Men who value women, men who are supportive of women, men who believe in standing up and supporting women. So to all our audience out there, just take a moment and take that introspective journey. And then the lessons from that introspective journey, turn around and support the others around you, especially the women around you, because women give up so much for the sake of family and willingly. But we as women need to learn to be a little more gentler, kinder with each other. We hold women to impossible standards, starting with ourselves, not so much men. So to the ladies out there, please have some grace for you, and turn around and have some grace for the women who are walking a long life's path that you encounter. Because only with that grace, we can help women find their greatness.